despite a renewed push by mediators for a ceasefire and a hostage deal in Gaza, a breakthrough remains and the end of the conflict remains elusive.
That's the message delivered to the Security Council by a senior United Nations Secretariat official during a monthly briefing on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question.
Now, the Council was informed that the choice could not be clearer: either continue on the current path of entrenching the Israeli occupation or recommitting to resolve the conflict and creating a two-state solution.
Today, the world looks on in horror as the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories continues to deteriorate to the level not seen in recent history. Over 22 months into hostilities, Gaza is sinking deeper in disaster, marked by rapidly mounting civilian casualties, mass displacement, and now famine. The hostages held by Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups continue to languish in appalling conditions. On my recent visit to Gaza, I was stunned at the scale of the destruction and suffering. I met humanitarian workers risking their lives to deliver aid while themselves living in intolerable conditions. I saw the immense personal toll on the population, including the UN's own staff, but was also inspired by our staff's unshakable commitment to do their work. As they speak today, they remain present and continue to deliver essential life-saving services throughout Gaza, including in the Gaza city.
This famine is not a product of drought or some form of natural disaster. It is a created catastrophe, the result of a conflict that has caused massive civilian death, injury, destruction, and forced displacement. This famine is also the result of 22 months of restricted and compromised delivery of essential humanitarian and commercial supplies, degraded health and nutrition systems, lack of adequate shelter, and broken water sanitation and hygiene networks, which have accelerated the spread of disease and turned menstrual hygiene into a nightmare for women and girls. The famine in Gaza is also the result of a destroyed food production system where 98% of the cropland is damaged or otherwise inaccessible, and where livestock is decimated.
For more on this now, we speak to our correspondent at the United Nations Sherwin Bryce-Pease. A famine now confirmed in Gaza and Israeli military escalation confirmed, of course, in Gaza City. 50 hostages still remaining in captivity. Only 20, of course, thought to still be alive. And we'll continue then, of course, look at this particular story. But Sherwin, good evening to you. Before we even get into what you and I are going to talk about tonight, it's quite a devastating day for us as media practitioners, given the loss of Tshidi Madia, someone that all of us would have known.
Certainly an appropriate way to start this conversation. You know, Bongi, where I had been in contact with Tshidi most recently, she was planning to come and join me at the United Nations for the UN General Assembly. And of course, the last time I saw her was on President Cyril Ramaphosa's visit to the White House. I posted on social media a picture of all the South African media gathered there. She was a wonderful force. She was a wonderful journalist. I enjoyed interacting and working with her in the very brief moments that we got to share. She was a very affirmative person about my career and my work, you know, a real blessing to have around. And what a sad shock through our systems to hear that she is no longer with us. I will very fondly recall her doing that interview, I believe it was on CNN, really, defending you know, this notion in South Africa that there was a white genocide, and really pushing back on some of the American media here in terms of the interrogation that they were seeking to engage in terms of what was happening in South Africa. She was a wonderful ambassador for the country, for media representatives writ large. And we are in mourning today, along with her friends, family, and colleagues who worked in the organization that she was part of. You know, in South African media, we are all part of the same organization, and that is truth-telling to the best of our abilities. and we will certainly feel her loss, and I will certainly miss her come September, when I was expecting to be alongside her here at the United Nations, when everybody comes to town, essentially, Bongiwe, and we will certainly miss her. Her huge personality and her huge contribution to the body of work that we are all, trying to contribute to a day in and day out here.
Yeah, Sherwin, quite a difficult one, especially when you think, just the contribution that she would have made. But let's move on to something else, of course, that is just as devastating, right? A famine now confirmed in Gaza, an Israeli military escalation confirmed in Gaza City. This is 50 hostages still remaining in captivity, only 20 those thought to still be alive. And this is an unending cycle of inhumanity and suffering, and also a Security Council that is also unable to stop this war. Where does it leave us?
Yeah, with not a lot of progress to show, essentially, Bongiwe. I'll read you what Tom Fletcher said when they pronounced that famine was confirmed in Gaza. Tom Fletcher is the Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, essentially the top UN official for humanitarian relief around the world. And he said this, quote, "This is a moment of collective shame for the international community. Inhumanity continues in the enclave, not just against the Palestinians trapped there, but also, let's recall the 50 hostages that remain in captivity, only about 20 that are thought to be alive. People that are alive, they have been in captivity now for 680 plus days, almost 2 years, as we approach the 2-year anniversary of the October 7th attack. And, it really does talk to a Security Council that is tasked with the maintenance of international peace and security that is simply no longer equipped to meet this moment due to the makeup, due to the bilateral relationship between Israel and the United States in the main. And, it's worth saying that bluntly, the United States has taken its role from the Security Council and really maneuvered within the region along with mediators Egypt and Qatar in terms of forging a new ceasefire arrangement that remains elusive to this day. The takeaway here is that this is a tragic, inhumane situation that the world does not seem capable of arresting, despite various capitals announcing that they're going to recognize the state of Palestine come September at the UN General Assembly. That does not speak to resolving the current crisis that is playing itself out in Gaza. Let's listen to a hostage survivor, Ilana Gritsguski. She spoke in the Security Council earlier today. Her partner remains in captivity. This is what she said to us a short time ago.
They took away my humanity, piece by piece. Each time they moved me, telling me I was going to my way home. They were ready to keep us alive, only to explode us even more. I spent entire days starving and hungry. Every little thing I ate couldn't keep it down. I felt that I don't have not strength left to fight. I did not know if it was day or night, if I was going to survive or die. And these were the moments when I developed deep post-trauma, the feeling that you can feel safe, that my life isn't mine, that my body is disconnected from my soul. In order for me to heal, in order for all the released hostages to heal, only when all the hostages are home will we be able to begin healing what has been broken.
Bongiwe, Ilana's partner, Matan Zangoka, remains in captivity. He's 25 years old. She had a message for him. She said, "Stay strong. Your mom and I and our dog is waiting for your return home." So tragedies on both sides of this conflict, but certainly mass casualties that continue to be perpetrated against the Palestinians in Gaza, of course, with that escalation announced by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in terms of an escalation in Gaza City, which it now recognizes as the last Hamas stronghold in Gaza, but a devastated enclave and really no straight line into where we go from here.
And Sherwin, at the same time, right, we're seeing reports that Israel has been allowing, this is of course more aid into Gaza, medical supplies, therapeutic foods for malnourished children, clean water, limited commercial traffic, fuel tankers and so forth. But what does the UN say, right, about the increase and its likely impact on the famine conditions in the enclave?
Well, they've certainly welcomed the increase in aid, right? More medical supplies, blood units are getting in. We understand that clean water is getting in. Nutritional food for the children. Children are the ones that suffer the most when there's malnutrition around, when there's starvation around, when there's famine around. So there is more aid getting in. But let me tell you what Joyce Msuya, the Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator, said to the Council. They welcome the increase, but it will neither reverse famine or stop it. To meet the needs of the 2.1 million people, we need much more. We need to deliver greater volumes of life-saving aid assistance. We need restrictions on essential items to be lifted. We need a halt in delays and denials that undermine our work every day. They need a ceasefire. They need an immediate ceasefire now. They need the hostages released so that they can not be too concerned about bombs flying over their heads, right? I mean, this is an ongoing war situation, and until the war stops, getting in the requisite amount of aid that is required at scale, Bongewe, is not going to happen until this war ends. And the majority of officials here in New York at the United Nations believe that until this ceasefire is achieved, until this war is brought to a sustainable end, you are not going to be able to cohesively address the humanitarian needs on the ground. That is just simply a fact.
And Sherwin, just before I let you go then quickly, we understand that US President Donald Trump will chair a meeting at the White House today. This is on Gaza, and according to his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, he's expected, of course, they expected that the war to be settled by the end of the year. That's what, of course, we've been hearing him say, that he wants an end to this quite soon. But what more do we know about this latest effort?
Yes, Steve Witkoff, a name you associate with ending the war in Ukraine and ending the war in Gaza, is the U.S. Special Envoy, very much involved in negotiating a ceasefire in both those conflicts. He told Fox News overnight that we've got a large meeting at the White House today, Wednesday, chaired by President Trump on Gaza. We think we are going to settle this war one way or another, certainly before the end of the year. So there's a little bit of a timeline for you in terms of what the United States is seeking here. The question is, we've been here before, right, in terms of timelines and ceasefires, and we simply don't get to that point, given the military escalation we are seeing from the Netanyahu government at this time. We also understand that Gideon Sahar, the foreign minister of Israel, is in Washington, D.C. He's due to meet with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio this afternoon, and we understand that he is likely to be part of that engagement at the White House. The problem here is we don't know what the post-plan for Gaza looks like. Even if this war were to end now, there is so much devastation. There is no housing for the 2.1 million people. So the United States, we understand now, seeking to come up with a plan here for what happens in the event that you do reach a ceasefire, right? About 10 days ago, Hamas has agreed to the latest ceasefire put on the table by the mediators. We are yet to hear from the Israelis as to whether they acquiesce to that agreement or whether, they are going to seek to continue their military escalation before they agree to the next ceasefire. Too many unknowns here, but we'll certainly be keeping a close eye on what might emanate from that White House meeting. We understand that will be chaired by President Donald Trump himself.
Too many unknowns indeed, Sherwin. Thank you so much for chatting to us. That's my colleague there, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, live for us at the United Nations.